Hey families, it's Kylie Larsen with 4011 Learning here. And I read a blog post the other night about signs that your child may benefit from tutoring. And I think that we often think about tutoring when there are struggles in a particular area, such as reading or math. But there are many other situations where a student can benefit from having a tutor. And so I wanted to create a video and go over that with you today, just very quickly. This does not have all the information from the blog post. So if you wanted to learn more, you could go to www.40 the number 11 learning.com to access the full article. But these are, I think, the main ones. So, how to recognize signs that your student may benefit from having a tutor. The first could be a sudden drop in grades. And there are so many reasons why this can happen. It happens sometimes when students are moving from one grade level to the next, or they've changed teachers, or they have moved to a new school. It could be difficulties at home. All kinds of things could lead to this. And so I think that the benefit of having a tutor is they're able to build that relationship with the student. Students may open up more to them than other adults in their life. And so they can kind of figure out what that student needs. Tutors offer them stability, they offer them consistency, and they give them encouragement in a time where they might be feeling very uncertain about their performance. And I will talk about this frequently, but it's very difficult for parents to sometimes provide that because our children don't always let us in. They don't always open up to us. They don't always respond the best to their parents. I know that firsthand. So I think that another adult could be beneficial in that situation. People don't often think about tutors assisting with things that are not considered academic subjects. But I love working with students with social, emotional learning, with learning about how we learn, how we remember, best ways to study. That's one of my favorite things to do. And so, a student that's having difficulties with organization, time management, prioritization, how to study, how to remember things, self regulation, those are things that tutors can help with. Now, I would say here that you do want to find a tutor that has experience working with diverse learners, perhaps someone that has been in the classroom, um, because they're going to have more experience with having had to figure out ways to support students with executive functioning needs. That would be the only caveat to that I would add. Lack of confidence. We have students that sometimes experience test anxiety. They are maybe frustrated and they begin to shut down. They begin to avoid tasks, and that's not a good road to go down. So, a tutor can help ease a student's frustration and fear because they are able to slow down. They are able to give the student access points to whatever it is they're having difficulty with because they're able to move the student along by meeting them where they are. And by meeting them where they are and slowing down, the student will begin to experience success. All students can learn, all students can grow. We just have to meet them where they are. And so that will allow their confidence to begin to build back. This would probably be the most common red flag that families recognize as a potential need for a tutor or some kind of specialized help. And that's when there's maybe a reading or a math deficit. And research does show that tutoring, especially when it's intensive and when it's personalized, is one of the most effective ways to improve math and reading outcomes. So, a couple of things to think about here. Intensive, personalized. You're going to get better results if there is a deficit in a child's reading or math by having one-to-one support or one-to-two support. I would say no more than one-to-three support. Um, that personalization is going to be key. You're also going to have more success if it is intensive, and that means more than once a week. So, a couple of suggestions I have for that is you could either do once a week with follow up assignments or follow up work that the student goes in and completes at least one or two more times that week. You could also take a 1 hour session, and if your tutor is willing to break that up into two 30-minute sessions, then you're able to see that child two times in a week, and then maybe even still give like one follow up practice for them to do another day. And I also encourage families to ask the tutor about what kind of curriculum they are using. Because when there is a significant deficit in a specialized area, those evidence based, research based curriculums, programs, and it doesn't have to be a program, but just the evidence based strategies to use the evidence-based sort of layout of the scope and sequence of skills. You want to make sure that that's happening as well. And then this one, I don't know if we really ever consider this much at all, but when students master concepts quickly, they may need someone to present them with a challenge, to push them a little bit, to teach them those advanced skills and take them to the next level they're ready for. Because they may be in a classroom setting and the teacher's not able to, and I can tell you because I've been a teacher, we try our best, we really do, but they may not have the time or resources to just take that student beyond where the other students are. And so a tutor can be very beneficial by getting the student excited about learning again, because sometimes our gifted students, they become bored, they become disinterested, their grades begin to suffer because they're thinking, I know this. What's the point in me having to continue to practice this? What's the point in me having to do this over and over on my homework? I already have this concept. So I think that this is a really powerful way to bring in an expert or a tutor or former teacher that can move that student along, because it's going to keep them excited about learning. It's really going to fill probably a void in them that exists because they're already there and they're ready to go on. So again, if you want more information, you can go to www.40-11-learning.com. The blog post is there. It talks about other things like learning disabilities. It talks about when there is a challenge between the child and the parent kind of getting along while they're working on schoolwork. This is very true at my home because I'm a reading specialist. I have two children that struggle with reading, and one of them does not respond well at all to me trying to help them or me trying to give them tips or strategies. But that's all I have. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.